Greetings to everyone on the occasion of Sonam Lhochhar, and thanks to everyone who has gathered in New York, California, England, the United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, Nepal, and throughout the world to celebrate the new year 2859, the year of the rat, with Tamang cultural festivities that preserve old traditions and create new ones. I am Catherine March, retired professor of anthropology, feminist gender and sexuality studies, and public affairs at Cornell University, along with my partner David Holmberg and our closest associate, host, assistant, and friend, Suryaman Nyema Karma Himdung Tamang. In 1975, I began to live with, learn from, and try to expand understanding of Tamang culture from the community of Manigang. Manigang is located on the land to the north and west of the Kathmandu Valley. It was land that was among the first conquered by Prithvinarayan Shah in the 16 and 1700s, when it was known as Panch Sai Kola, the 500 streams. Then it was incorporated into Rana, Nepal as West Number 1, which itself became divided into the three districts of Dading, Rasua, and Nuakot during the Panchayat era. Today, with the post-1990 and 2006 democratic forms, Manigaon is part of the Kispang village municipality. Today, I'm sending this message of thanks and hopes for happiness, health, and prosperity in the coming year as part of the Tamang celebration of Lhochhar, known today in Nepal specifically as Sonam Lhochhar, to differentiate it from the related Tamang Losar, Burung or Tamu Losar, and Sherpa or Gyalbu Losar. In many ways, these greetings of mine are like the January 1st celebrations of the Western New Year. It is a time for honoring old ties, especially of family and friends, and committing to new ventures. The word lo means year, and char means new, or some say change or turning over to something new. During my original research period, Tamang people did not celebrate Lhochhar. Instead, they had to accommodate dominant Jati Nepali expectations to celebrate first and foremost the national festival of Dasai, and they modified Magh Sakranti to suit Tamang desires to pay their respects to elders at the new year. After 1990, Cheali Sal, during the nationwide florescence of ethnic pride, there was a general meeting of prominent Tamang lamas, notably Dharmaraj from Kabre Palanchok, Karmasiddhi from Sindhupalchok, and Dondup from Ramichap, who wanted to recuperate a distinctive Tamang calendar. They debated three main proposals about what year to date the Tamang calendar from. The first was a proposal to date from the birth of the Buddha, since Buddha was born in Nepal after all. But they rejected this option because the Buddha's date didn't belong exclusively or specially to the Tamang. The second proposal was to date the Tamang calendar from Amsuvarma, the Lichavi king under whom Buddhism had flourished in Nepal and whose daughter Bikruti had married Chonsen Gompa, bringing Buddhism to Tibet. But they rejected this proposal too because of uncertainty about whether the Lichavis were Jati or Thakuri or Janajati, to say nothing of not knowing whether or not they could be claimed as Tamang. They finally chose to date the Tamang calendar from Manjushri, the Buddha who wielded the sword of knowledge and wisdom. Manjushri is known in Tamang as Jamyang, and he is the ancient Tsawai Lama, or original or root or teaching origin of the Tamang. More specifically, Lo are the years named for animals, which cycle every 12 years to make a Lhochhar, in a calendrical system derived ultimately from the Chinese, in which the 12 animal years rotate continuously, from the rat or mouse to the ox, to the tiger, to the hare or rabbit, to the dragon, to the snake, to the horse, sheep, monkey, bird, dog, and finally boar or pig. According to Tamang tradition, the order of these 12 animal years is defined by the order in which they primordially greeted the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara or Chenreshi, known in these accounts as Karunamaya Buddha, or the Buddha of Compassion. These 12-year Lhochhar cycles are further embedded in the cycle of the 5 elements, earth, fire, wood, water, and metal, and they also alternate between male and female, so that this year is the year of the water rabbit. So from all of this, on Sonam Lhochhar, Tamang people will greet one another saying, Ye Lhochhar la Jabadangba. One more thing you may be wondering. Some sources call this year not the year of the hare or rabbit, which is what it is called in most places, including China and Tibet, but rather the year of the cat, which is what it is called in Vietnam primarily. For example, this popular YouTube video does a nice job explaining the 12-year cycle, but calls this year the year of the cat. There is at least one major theory about the rabbit or cat confusion that comes from the way rabbit and cat are written in Chinese characters. Mao is the Chinese character for writing rabbit, and it is very like, to those not fully literate in Chinese, Mao, which is the Chinese character for cat. So is it Mao or Mao? But Tamang Lamas have repeatedly pointed out to me that it is only in a few places where this year is called the Year of the Cat, in what is essentially a statistical argument supporting the majority of places that call this year for the hare or the rabbit. And as well, they argue that it would seem strange to have both a cat and a tiger, itself really just a big cat, in the same Lhochhar cycle. Whatever the reasons, it is clear that the Tamang 12-year Lo cycle counts the Hye Lo as the year of the hare or the rabbit, not the cat. In support of the Tamang 12 Lo year Lhochhar cycle, I'm particularly excited to be able to share the following short video recording with you. It's by Kali Bahadur Gomjen and was recorded in 2011 in his home village of Bomtang in Nuakot. Kali Bahadur Meme was 72 years old, or as he put it then, and in keeping with our discussion of Tamang Lo and Lhochhar, he said he was 6 Lhochhar old, born in the Tiger Lo. Kali Bahadur Gomjen was a well-known and much respected Shepompo, that is, a village leader, an important person, Pombo, or sometimes said Pompo, who knew or sheba important cultural things, especially mythic origin songs, such as those that were sung at important festivals. Among the songs that he taught me was the Lhochhar Jabala, about the beauty of the cycle of years. The song, as it was sung by him in his capacity as Shepompo, keeper of important songs, is a slow, respectful song, honoring each of the 12 Lo in the order that they come into the Lhochhar cycle. It has a simple 3-line verse sung 3 times, followed by a 4-line verse with a transitional melody. So, Tung Sang Lo, basically an honoring or purifying framing line, followed by a line naming each animal as part of the sacred cycle of animal Los, and then repeating the purification line, Tung Sang Lo. The final verse begins, like the other 3, Tung Sang Lo. It names the animal Lo again, and then changes the melody to sing Mendo Tung Sang Lo, honor and purify with flowers, and Loni Tung Sang Lo, honor and purify the years themselves, or the very years themselves. Each Lo year is thus repeated 4 times in each 4-verse stanza. In Tamang, these are the Jiwa, Lang, Tak, Hye, Bruk, Brul, Ta, Lugu, Pre, Chia, Ki, and Pak, or rat, ox, tiger, hare, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, bird, dog, and boar. To honor the Tamang tradition of the 12-year cycle of Lo years, which is turning to the new year at Lhochhar, and out of respect for Kali Bahadur Bomjung Meme and his knowledge, I want simply to play his recording in its entirety and without commentary.
Sang Mendo dansang lo, alone dansang lo, langue lo mo iti dansang lo, langue lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo. Dansang lo, take lo mo iti dansang lo, take lo mo iti lang tan take lo mo iti dansang lo, mendo dansang lo. Lone dansang lo, yege lo mo iti dansang lo, yege lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo. Dansang lo, yege lo mo iti dansang lo, yege lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, bruke lo mo iti dansang lo, bruke lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, bruke lo mo iti dansang lo, bruke lo mo iti dansang lo, mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, take lo mo iti dansang lo, take lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo. Dansang lo, luke lo mo iti dansang lo, luke lo mo iti dansang lo, mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, prege lo mo iti dansang lo, prege lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, chiage lo mo iti dansang lo, chiage lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, chige lo mo iti dansang lo, chige lo mo iti mendo dansang lo, lone dansang lo, page lo mo iti dansang lo, page lo mo iti
Thank you, Kali Bahadur, Gomzong Mimi, and all the people of Bomtang whom he represented. Lo and Lhochhar have, as this carefully preserved song, Lhochhar Diabala, underscores, always been important to Tamang people, even in times of great cultural suppression by the dominant Jati Nepali state. Speaking Tamang, people in the village of Manigaon used to use these concepts all the time. The way to ask, how old are you, for example, was Ekatilegortaji, to which the answer would be, in my case today, Ngalekordu Tenglo Gitaji. I'm 6 lekor and 1 lo old, in other words, 73 years old. But even more common was the question, Itai lo, what is your lo? Me, Ngalang lo, I am the ox lo. It was left up to the person who asked, Itai lo, what is your lo, to figure out how many of the 12-year cycles had passed, based upon a general understanding of the life cycle, in which the first 12 years were childhood, when a person was a kola, a child. This was thought of as the time before wisdom arose. The second 12-year cycle, from age 13 to 24, were youth, when a person was a byon or chame, and this was the time to dance, as they called it, that is, to travel to festivals or to trade or to work. The third lekor was the time from age 25 to 36, when you were expected to settle down, to marry, to have children. By the fourth lekor, when you were 37 to 48, you began to want your own children to marry and give you grandchildren, so that by the time you were kikpa kriyu, that is 49 to 60 years old, you would be surrounded by and cared for by the next generations. Although Lo and Lhochhar were very important in ways for organizing time among Manigan Tamang in the 1970s, Lhochhar was not. There was no Lhochhar in Manigaon village in 1975-77, nor anywhere else in Nepal as far to my knowledge. At that time, the so-called New Year was celebrated on Magh Sakranti, and this was when people made a special effort to pay respects to their elders, to seek their blessings for the coming year. The time when most of the singing of these songs, and perhaps the singing done previously, was associated now or then in 1975 to 77 was Dasai. Dasai was the Jati Nepali national festival honoring the divinity of the Shah kings and celebrating their rule. Needless to say, and I could say a great deal more about the meaning of Durga and the imposition of Shah rule upon the Tamang people and their kingdoms, but that would make this a very, very long presentation. Tamang feelings had mixed feelings about Dasai. On the one hand, they were forced to perform sacrifices and make obeisances that were not part of their own traditions, and that were sometimes offensive to those traditions. On the other hand, it was a great national vacation. Everyone got to come home. Because they had to show that buffaloes had been sacrificed, there was meat to eat, there were new clothes, and lots of family and friends. In the Tamang community of Manigaon, people gathered to sing throughout the night, especially at Tihar. During Dasai and Tihar, Tamang and Manigaon sang all kinds of songs, religious and mythic origin songs, playful and dancing songs, including the recently remixed Mendomaya songs, and the song playing on the next slide, which is called Lhochhar and Chhechyu, the low circle of 12. And this song as well recites the names of all of the Lo, all 12 of the Lo, that together make up the wheel of Lo, or the Lhochhar. So hence the name Lhochhar, Chui Chunyi. I think you get a wonderful sense of the village community singing and dancing, being led by the Shepompo, the people who know and keep the songs, and responding as a whole community singing. In this time in the village of Manigam, more important than either Dasai or Magi Sankranti was Chhechyu. Chhechyu was a 10-day dance drama that was staged for 3 consecutive years, 3 years in a row, followed by a respite during which other communities would host. During Chhechyu, the entire village was sealed. That is, no one could enter or leave. The entire community worked together to produce a series of events that ranged from the very serious invocation of territorial divinities to dances reenacting local history, to displays of local social relations, to comic performances. Everyone in the community had pivotal roles to play, hosting and entertaining, performing and watching. The singing and dancing was nonstop throughout this period, culminating in the day of the great dance and the singing that was associated with it. On the day of the gate dance, the Chemagren, the entire community participated in skits that enacted and provided social commentary on all the social roles in their local universe. There were kings and queens from both Gorkha, the Shahs, and Tibet, earlier feudal relations with the community. There was a Rana General Sahib trying to commandeer young local women. There were Tibetans celebrating their new year by throwing flour on everyone. There were Gurung sheep herders and Brahmin moneylenders and Newar merchants and parodies of Buddhist lamas and Tamang shamans. And in 1977, the second year of Chhechyu performance we saw, an anthropologist was added who went around taking pictures and interviewing people. There were as well extremely important religious practitioners who performed serious rituals and recited and sang to protect the community. The Gorpa, for instance, sang in unbelievably deep basso voices about and for the territorial divinities of the earth. Buddhist lamas performed recitation rituals for the Buddhas and the Buddhist order. And bumbos chanted, danced, and went into trance to reach other local and personal divinities. But in spite of its importance, Chhechyu had not been performed in the region since the 1977 event we took part in. It looked like it might completely die out. However, along with other aspects of Tamang culture, since the 1990s there have been efforts to revive Chhechyu, sometimes in direct connection with the introduction of Lhochhar. In 2011, the community of Bomtang mounted a Chhechyu at the time of Lhochhar. It was widely advertised and took on the air of a regional festival as people came not only from the adjoining Tamang villages, but from other ethnic and caste communities. Most of the events took place in the central village plaza, where a stage had been built with a sophisticated sound system, surrounded by stalls hawking everything from traditional Tamang dress items to booths promoting local agricultural extension office activities, as well as all kinds of foods and trinkets for children. In addition to the large numbers of non-Tamang spectators, the greatest change from the Chhechyus of 1976 and 77 was a new separation between the stage and the audience. There was now a DJ, a master of ceremonies, who welcomed dignitaries to come sit in rows on the stage, and also announced singers and dancers who performed on the stage. In the main plaza of the village, at least, what had been a spectacle before, certainly, but one in which the line between performer and audience was pretty fluid in 1976-77, now became a pronounced division. Not only were there much sharper distinctions between those performing on or those observing from the dais and the stage, there were even local police monitoring rope barricades separating the stage from the audience. As you can see from the next short video, a good time was had by all, but now in the context of a public festival with a large, diverse, and often non-local audience, for whom groups of staged performers vied to recapture some of the enthusiasm of Tamang dancing festivals. At the same time that the village plaza was the site of a staged performance of Tamang culture for public consumption, the traditional dance skits of the great dance, the Chemagren, took place essentially backstage through the lower parts of the village. Here, for a much more local audience, were the familiar characters of kings and queens, the Rana General Sahib, comic characters, as well as parodies of Lama and Bumbo. Here too, although there was no mock anthropologists, there were mock media, camera, and sound men. The dance in the short video that follows is still socially, symbolically, historically, and ritually very dense and much more like its 1970s predecessors. David Holmberg has written about the important ways in which changes in Chhechyu have informed the emergence of Lhochhar as the most important Tamang ritual festival event today in Nepal. In the old Chhechyu, it occurred throughout the village entirely. In Lhochhar and contemporary Chhechyus, it's on a stage. In the old form, everyone was singing and dancing. Today, it's mostly performers, although the audience can often join in. Previously, it displayed history and culture for cultural insiders, and the village was closed to outsiders. Today, it is now a cultural show for outsiders as much as for insiders. Before, it was specifically important in strengthening village society. Today, I think we can argue it is to strengthen a global, or at least a national Tamang social identity. Before, Tamang communities were small and village-based. Today, there's a strong desire to expand the scope of Tamang society. Previously, Tamang performing Chhechyu were excluded from the nation, and today, in part through the performance of Lhochhar, Tamang are seeking inclusion both in the nation and in the world. I think it's reasonable to say that in the time when David Holmberg and I did our original research, people were very reluctant to say, I'm Tamang. Local communities were strong, but they were not included within the nation as a whole. In the emergence of what is so proudly called the new Nepal, there is also an emergence of a new Tamang. People today proudly say, I am Tamang. And Tamang society extends well beyond the local. As today's events all over the globe attest, Tamang people are all over the world today. There are Lhochhar events celebrated and large events in Kabre, in Kathmandu, in Bumtang, in Hong Kong, and the world, including this wonderful gathering in New York and other places. Many thanks to all of you for giving me this opportunity to share some ideas about Sonam Lhochhar, and many best wishes for a happy Sonam Lhochhar. Sonam Lhochhar la Jabadangba Tuji Che 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 Chia Sangba Jalo Pyafulji Tuji Che